Andrei Vasilevskiy done for approximately 2 months after undergoing back surgery. Number one, that's massive news for the division. Number two, I'm not sure how Tampa recovers from this. Like, this guy's an all-world netminder, arguably the top goaltender on the planet. You take him off that roster, just look at how many games this guy's played in the last 5 years alone. So you would think they're looking for a goalie in Tampa, and right away I flip my Leafs lenses on. I know Martin Jones is going on waivers. I know he's got to go through a lot of teams before he gets to Tampa, but there is like a pathway where Martin Jones ends up as the opening night starter for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Can you believe that?
No, that'd be pretty weird, man. And I mean, he's if we're talking about Tampa in a light that we've been talking about them in the last 3-4 years, that's not a good look for them, right? I mean, we've already talked about how they've taken a step back. They've lost a lot of players. They're aging a little bit. You know, when you hit that peak, it's kind of hard to stay there in the cap age. They're starting to fall down, and then one of their biggest assets in Vasilevskiy's gone down for a few months. It's a terrible look, and it only opens the door even more in that division, like you said. And whether they scoop him up, I don't know. You got to think they got other options for the meantime. Maybe not. It would be interesting, but I mean, the reason we got him is to give us some depth, to give us some injury protection. He was a cheap pickup with experience, and maybe someone else on the market's going to see the same thing and say, "Thank you very much, yoink," and grab him off of waivers. But when you get a guy with that background and that caliber and that experience, he's going to be your third man, probably on the Marlies. You're gonna, right off the bat, you're gonna have to put him through waivers,
Exactly.
and if that happens, that happens. There's nothing you can do about it. If you're not going to keep him on your roster, you're going to give 24 hours to the rest of the league to snatch him up, and if that happens, there's not much you can do about it. So that's the plan. There's no use crying over it. There's no way around it. I don't think they're going to be keeping 3 goaltenders here. They're already in a crunch trying to shed bodies and salary cap. So he's going to go, and there's always that worry, and usually guys go through waivers. People are not trying to pick up more guys, but like you say, it might be a special situation in Tampa.
Well, that's exactly it, I think, when it comes to Martin Jones. And the other thing to bring up, too, is the number of players on the Leafs that have been claimed on waivers is egregious to me over the last 5 to 7 years. It just seems like every time a Leaf hits waivers, teams are like, oh, it's a Maple Leaf. He's got to be good. Let's pick him up. But I think with Jones, when they made that signing, I think it was August 9th, we came on and said, you know what, this is great. It's good for security and insulation and all that, playing behind the two guys. But is it likely Martin Jones is a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs past opening night? I always thought it was unlikely. The position has become so volatile across the league. And on top of that, I mean, injuries are going to happen. Just look here. I mean, even in Colorado, Pavel Francouz is banged up right now. So the Avalanche could be involved in that derby too. I think from day one, as you mentioned, both parties involved have understood that this is probably going to happen this way, no?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you just put him in the minors, keep him fresh, and yank him up when and if there's an injury. And I mean, to get both your goaltenders through 82 games without a single injury is tough. You look at last year, injuries galore. Obviously, Matt Murray was part of that equation with a terrible history of injuries, but I believe Sammy went down for a couple of weeks there too. And
Yeah.
it's tough to get through those 7-8 months of grinding, of traveling, of giving it everything that it takes to compete in the NHL, especially when you're a team that is making a push. And it's nice to have that layer of protection to bring in an experienced guy to at least sit back up. But heaven forbid both goaltenders go down, you're going to be leaning on them like crazy, and that did happen last year too, where we're leaning on our third and fourth strings for certain periods of time. So it does happen, and obviously they signed him for a reason, and they don't want to lose him. So again, not much you can do about it. You're not going to keep him up top. You're going to have to put him through waivers, and you just hope everyone else is not in a position to snatch him up.
If they lose Jones, I don't know where they go. They better have a contingency plan in place because you're so right. There's no way in hell in my world. I mean, I know the Jays were an anomaly this season where I think they used 7 starting pitchers, which is ridiculous. But to ask for that to happen on a routine basis for any sports franchise is crazy. To think those two guys and Samsonov and Wall are going to play the entire season, I think is crazy. And quite frankly, I can't sit here with a straight face and tell you who the third string netminder is, not named Martin Jones. That's where it's gotten to.